Hi guys, this is Rony Velasquez with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, California Properties, and welcome to my training on closing techniques. Now the word closing, for the most part, I don't really like too much, because closing seems like you're trying to force people into doing something that they don't want to do, which is totally not the case when you're trying to do this. But I'd like to call it is conversations and questions, because that's basically what this is. It's about conversations and questions, asking the questions, the right questions to the people, and creating conversations with people so we can arrive to the answers that we need and collect the information that we need in order to make a better decision. Now, before we begin, what I would like to talk to you about is, I would like to talk to you about the process, because I want to show you how closing, in this case, I'm going to call it closing. The closing is really important throughout the entire process of real estate. So let's begin with this. I'm going to do this because I'm going to do it backwards, because it's a lot easier to explain it that way. So in this business, you have a purpose. You have a purpose. Now, for most people, people say, well, I have a purpose. My purpose is to help other people, which is fantastic, because we love to help people. If you're in the sales business, you love to help people, and that's part of our nature. This is, the more people you help in this business, the greater you're going to feel about yourself, about what you do, etc., etc. But there's also a secondary purpose of being in this business, which is to make money. So in this business, you have to make money, because if you don't make money, if you're not profitable, you're going to have to quit, and if you quit, you're not going to be able to help anybody. So the last purpose of this business is to make money. So I'm going to put a square here. I'm going to call it money, right? Now, before you can make money, all right, there's something that has to happen before you can make money. So before you can make money, the step before that is you have to be able to close escrow. So we're going to call this close escrow. So we're going to do this one here. I'm going to put close escrow, right? And the reason why you need to close escrow is because if you don't close escrow, you don't get paid. In this business, in real estate, in order to get paid, you have to close an escrow. So you have to close an escrow, you get paid. Now, before you can close an escrow, there's a step that needs to happen before you can close escrow, and that is you have to open escrow. You have to open escrow. So we're going to put here open escrow right here, right? Open escrow, okay? So nobody gets paid until escrow is open and closed, all right? And before you can open escrow, there has to be a step before that. And the step before opening escrow is that there has to be an agreement. There has to be a meeting of the minds, what we call an agreement. That means that everybody is in agreement to open escrow. The buyer is in agreement to open escrow. The seller is in agreement to open escrow. The agents are in agreement to open escrow. The escrow officer, the title officer, the lender, everybody has to be in agreement to open escrow. So that's what we call an agreement, right? So everybody has to be in agreement. So we're going to put it here, and we're going to call it a agreement, okay? An agreement, a meeting of the minds, right? And before you can have an agreement, you have to have something that happens before you have an agreement, and that's called an appointment. An appointment, all right? So before you can actually have an agreement, you have to have an appointment. Now, obviously, technology has changed, and before I used to say that you want to have belly-to-belly appointments with people over the kitchen table, which still stands true. You want to meet with people, you want to be able to talk to them face-to-face and all that. But obviously, technology has changed, so sometimes you make appointments over the phone. You conduct your appointments, that is, over the phone. You conduct appointments over Skype. All kinds of things, right? That technology has really improved in that area, right? But regardless of that, before you can have an agreement in regards to what you need to do, you need to have an appointment. That's the first thing, that's the thing that comes before an agreement, is an appointment, all right? So we're going to put here appointment, okay? So I'm going to abbreviate it and just put appointment. And before we have an appointment, there's one thing that needs to happen before you have an appointment, and that is that you need to do follow-up. You need to do follow-up, you see, because more chances are that when you're meeting people, and you're meeting people all the time, right, chances are you're not going to be able to set up that appointment on the first try, you see, because most people are busy. Everybody is busy. People have important things to do. They have to take care of their family. They have to take care of their kids. They have PTA meetings, and they have job things, and they get sick, and they get indisposed. A lot of things happen in people's life. So sometimes you have to create an appointment, and then you have to postpone it, and you have to postpone it sometimes 2 or 3 times before you can actually meet, which is typical, it's normal in the market, but a lot of follow-up is required when it comes to setting up appointments. So then the first step that you have to do, the step that you have to do before that is what we call follow-up, okay, follow-up. And the step before follow-up, there's one step before following up, which is prospecting for business, what we call lead generation, generating leads, prospecting for business, right? So that's the step that comes before that. So we're going to call that lead generation. So lead gen, okay, lead generation. So watch this. This is the process of real estate. Now, the process of real estate is really simple. I'm not saying that real estate is simple, because real estate is nothing but not simple, right? Real estate is complicated, and we have to deal with issues, and we have to deal with attitudes, and we have to deal with paperwork, and we have to deal with a lot of things. So the career of real estate, as you may call it, is not a simple one, but the process of real estate is really simple. The process of real estate goes something like this. Lead generation, generating leads, leads to follow-up. Follow-up leads to appointments. Appointments leads to agreements. Agreement leads to open escrow. Open escrow leads to close escrow, and close escrow leads to getting paid. And that's important. So that's the process of real estate. Now, I want you to understand that process, and the reason why is because as you learn this process, as you're going across this process, you will understand how important it is to convert those conversations, to basically close people, let's say in a good sense of the word, is closing people to make the decisions that they need to make, but they're afraid to make, or to make the decisions that they have to make, right? So in order to do that, let me show you this. So when you're generating leads here, what are you basically doing when you're generating leads? Basically, you are closing people into giving you their information. You provide something of value in exchange for their information. So let's say, for example, open houses as an example. You're providing a service, something of value, which is opening the door for people so they can come and see the property. In exchange for what? In exchange for their information, right? So that's what lead generation is all about. It's about exchanging value for information. Value for information. You exchange your value in exchange for their information. So you're, in essence, closing people to give you their information. So that's the first part of the process, right? The second part of the process comes in the follow-up, right? In the follow-up, what are you doing in the follow-up? What you're doing in the follow-up is you're closing people to give you an appointment. You're following up with people to close them in to give you an appointment. We're going to go into scripts and dialogues in a second, but I want you to understand the process so you understand where all of this comes from, right? So what you're doing right now is you are following up with people, and you're trying to close them into giving you an appointment. You're trying to close them into giving them an appointment, and there's a script for that. We're going to cover those scripts in a second, right? So that's the second part of the process, following up with people and closing them into giving you an appointment. So that's the second part of the process. Third part of the process, appointments. In the appointment, what are you trying to do in the appointment? Well, what you're trying to do is you're trying to close people into working with you. Working with you. So you're meeting with people and you're trying to close them into working with you. Let's say, for example, you met somebody at an open house, and you say, well, let's say you use one of the scripts that we have, which we're going to cover today. Berkshire Hathaway Home Services is a large company. We have a lot of offices, a lot of agents. We list a lot of properties on a week-to-week basis. Would you like to be notified about those properties we list on a week-to-week basis? And if they say yes, and then it represents something of value, then you say, great, all I need is your information, your name, phone number, and email address, so I can send you a list of those properties that we list every week. See, you're exchanging a value for their information. That's the first part of the process. And then, when you're sending those properties, you're calling them, you're following up. And when you're following up, you're saying, hey, you know what? I would like to meet with you. I would like to meet with you so we can talk about, the process of home buying. We want to get you pre-qualified. I want to understand really what you're looking for, you see. So we would like to meet with you. So you're, in essence, closing the people for that appointment, and so they can work with you, right? And through that appointment, they decide to work with you, right? And once they're working with you, let's say if they're buyers or sellers for that matter, the next part of the process is to close them into have an agreement with you, to close them into making an offer on a property if they like the property. Once again, I don't like the term close because it feels like you're forcing people to do something. No. This is about asking the right questions and guiding people to make the decisions that they need to make, right? So you're closing people into making offers, or you're closing people into giving you a listing, right? And once you make that offer and get that listing, the next part of the process is to have that listing going to escrow. So that means that you're gonna have to work with the buyers, work with the sellers, work with the buyers, work with the lender, with the listing agent, escrow officer, title officer, etc., and everybody has to be in an agreement to open escrow. And once you open escrow, before you can close escrow, what you're doing here is you're closing people to work with each other. And I always say that one of the hardest part of our business is dealing with people's emotions, because people get really emotional about buying or selling a home. You know, sellers want what they want, buyers want what they want, and sometimes what sellers want is not what buyers want. You know, it's completely the opposite, right? So what you're doing through this entire process, you know, you're basically managing this transaction. What you're doing is you're closing people into working with each other and moving forward in this transaction, and that's what you're doing, right? So that's important. So as you can see here, the entire process, all of this process from beginning to end, you're closing people into giving you their information, you're closing people into giving you appointments, you're closing people into agreeing to work with you, you're closing people into signing agreement, you're closing people into working with each other. All the entire time, you're closing. And see, this is where I say most of the agents fail, is that they don't understand what closing is all about. Closing is about asking questions. It's about guiding people. It's about being a counselor. It's about being, you know, sometimes even the shoulder that they cry on, you know. All of these things, right? So closing is about conversations. It's about questions and conversations. That's why I like to call it questions and conversations. You ask questions, they give you answers. You analyze the answers. You create conversations, and through those questions and conversations, you find what is the best alternative or the best thing that you can do for them, right? Now, for that, we have scripts. We have scripts for pretty much everything. By the way, if you're new in this business, like you just got into real estate, right? I promise you this, everything that you will ever need already exists. Somebody already invented it. Okay, so don't try to reinvent the wheel, because anybody already invented it, right? So we have scripts and dialogues, and we have many trainers out there, and we have hundreds and dozens of scripts and dialogues, right? Now, what I'm going to do with you right now is I'm going to share with you some of the scripts and dialogues that I use in my personal business. You can copy them if you want. That's not a problem. If you want a copy of them, just send me an email or something. I'll send them over to you. I got no problem with that. I want to share some of my scripts and dialogues with you, and I can explain you the process that I follow in regards to closing those people into one, and giving me their information, into closing for appointments, etc., etc. Let's get started with that right now. Let's start with script number one. Script number one in my book is the expire script, and I have them based on importance. You know, from top to bottom, what's more important, right? So expires is a great way to generate new listings, and the reason why is because when a property expired, obviously you know that the seller wanted to sell the property and is willing to pay a commission, so that's important, right? So the expire script. Now I'm not gonna read the expire script verbatim, you know, as it's on the screen right now, but you can see it there. Just to have an idea. So basically the expire script goes something like this. When you're calling somebody, you're expired, you pick up the phone and you say, hi, my name is Rony. And now let me give you some pointers in regards to the scripts before we even begin. The first thing that I want to do when I'm calling somebody or door knocking on somebody is I want to apologize for bothering them. Now I want you to understand this. I don't care who you are or what you do. If I'm home watching TV and you come knocking on my door, I don't care what you do, you're bothering me. You know, it could be anybody. If you come to my door, you're bothering me. That's the first impression that I got from you, right? So what I like to do personally, you know, is I would like to apologize for bothering people. So I'm very apologetic when I'm calling people, because I understand that people's busy, you know, they have their kids and their families and they're eating dinner or they're driving or whatever, right? So the point is, I want to apologize for intruding in their life. I want to apologize for bothering them. So usually what I say, hi, my name is Rony. I am so sorry to bother you. And I say very apologetic. You know, sometimes I hear the kids in the background, they're all crying and everything, and I'm like, I'm sorry to bother you. I know you're probably tremendously busy. I'm just going to take a minute of your time. I'm so sorry to bother you. So what I like to start doing at the beginning of my scripts and dialogues is always apologizing to people. I would like to apologize to people. That's the first thing. The second thing is get to the point. Get to the point right away. I mean, don't drag this longer than it needs to be dragged, right? So get to the point as fast as you can. So on the expire script, for example, the expire script that I use, it goes something like this. Hi, you can name them by name if you want. Hi, Robert, this is Rony. I am so sorry to bother you. The reason I'm calling you is because I noticed, or my company told me, or my manager told me, or my company informed me that your property was on the market. It's no longer on the market. It is an expired, and I just wanted to ask you one question. Do you want to sell it? Do you want to sell it? It seems a simple question. I go straight to the point. Do you want to sell your property? Now watch this. When you're calling people and you ask that question, do you still want to sell your home? Some people will say yes, some people will say no, right? And if they say yes or they say no, there's all those scripts that you can follow there. So let's say, for example, I'm going to carry on the conversation. It goes something like this. Hi, Robert, this is Ronnie. I'm so sorry to bother you. And you're probably busy. I'm just going to take a minute of your time. Listen, I noticed that your property recently expired, and I just wanted to ask you one question. Do you still want to sell it? And then Robert will say, for example, yes, and in case if they say yes, then I follow the script and say, fantastic, when can I stop by? I want to see the property, and then you can carry on the conversation there. So let's go to the no answer, because more than likely you're going to get a no answer. So somebody says, no, I'm not interested in selling anymore, and then you say, why not? Whenever somebody says no to me, in any of my scripts, you'll see all of my scripts, when somebody says no to me, my next question is, why not? Why not? If I ask somebody, do you want to sell your home? And they say, no, I'm not interested in selling. You say, why not? If somebody's looking to buy a property, and I say, well, are you looking to buy a property? And they say, well, no, I'm not looking to buy a property at this moment. I say, why not? The reason why you want to ask a why not question is because when you ask a why not question, it opens up a conversation. There's really no way for them to say yes or no. It's not a yes or no question. It's more of an open-ended question, what we call open-ended questions. And what happens is you create a conversation. So if you say to somebody, why not? And they say, well, the reason why is we had the property on the market, and we had it for 6 months, and the property didn't sell, and we decided to wait for a little bit longer. And so the next question after why not is by when. The next question is by when. So if they say, well, we're not ready to sell it right now, then my next question is, by when are you going to be ready to move with that decision? So by when are you going to be ready to move with that decision? That will be the next question. So let's go down the script. Hi, Robert, this is Ronnie. I'm sorry to bother you. I know you're probably busy. I'm just going to take a minute of your time. Listen, the reason I'm calling you is because I noticed your property is no longer in the market. I just wanted to ask you a question. Do you still want to sell it? And then Robert says, no, we decided not to sell the house. And I say, well, why not? Well, we had another market for 6 months, and we decided that we wanted to wait a little bit longer. I understand that completely. So let me ask you, Robert, by when are you going to be ready to make that decision? And then Robert will say, well, in about 6 months. Is it okay if I call you back in 6 months? Now you ask permission. That's why it's called permission marketing. So you ask permission, you say, hey, Robert, is it okay if I call you back in 6 months? And then Robert is going to say yes, because most people think that you're never going to call them back. Now, if you're a good realtor, you're going to put that person in your database, and obviously you're going to call that person, and you're going to talk to them, 6 months from now. Now watch this. Whenever somebody gives you a time frame of when they think they're going to be doing things, all right, here's my advice. People always make decisions before they tell you they're going to make decisions. So whenever somebody says a year, for example, I always split it in half. Like if they say 6 months, it's 3 months. If they say a year, it's 6 months. If they say 2 years, it's 1 year. So I always split it in half. Now watch this. If Robert says they're going to make a decision in a year from now, I'll split that in 6 months. I'll split it in half to 6 months. And then this is the next part to that. Before you can actually get business from Robert, it takes about 4 to 6 conversations before you can actually you actually earn that trust and respect from people, that they know you, like you, and trust you to do business with you. So it takes about 4 to 6 conversations before that happens. So this is the way that I would set it up. Robert says that he's going to be ready to make a decision in 6 months. I divide 6 months by 6, 6 conversations obviously, and every month I will call him back. Every month, and I will call him back, and I will say something like this: hey, Robert, a month ago you told me you were thinking about selling your home. I understand you're not ready to sell it yet. I understand that completely, right? I'm just going to follow up with you to see if there's anything that you need. Is there anything that I can do to help you? If you have any questions or anything, is there anything at all that I can do for you? And then Robert says, no, I don't need anything right now. I said, perfect. Thank you, no problem. I'll call you back later. And then a month later, I'll call him back again. And then next month, I'll call him back again. And next month, I'll call him back again. Now, watch this. Why is it that I'm calling Robert every month for 6 months? The reason why is because people don't buy and sell homes when it's convenient to you. People buy and sell homes when it's convenient to them. You just have to be there when that happens. You have to be there when they're ready to make that decision. So watch this. I want to become a presence in their mind. A presence in their mind. What is a presence in their mind? What does that mean, a presence in their mind? This is what it means. Let me give you an example of this because it's going to work better that way. Let's say, for example, you get a phone call from somebody. Let's call her Karen. Right? Karen calls you. And she says, hi, Ronnie, this is Karen. Hi, Karen, how you doing? How's the family? Very well, thank you. Listen, Ronnie, the reason I'm calling you is because my sister told me yesterday she's interested in buying a home, and you're the first person that came into my mind. you know you have become a presence in Karen's mind. If the first person they think about when they think about real estate is you, you have become a presence in their mind. And that's exactly what you want to do. And that takes time. That takes time. See, the first time you call this person, they don't know who you are. They don't know anything about you. You don't know who they are, right? You're just calling them at blank, right? So the next thing that needs to happen is you start calling them every month, and obviously you're gonna follow up with a text message. You're gonna follow up with a package. You're gonna send to their house. You know, you have certain things that you need to do right on the follow up. That's what I talk about, follow up in there. So you're gonna do the follow up, right? So watch this. The first conversation you have with them, they don't know who you are, you don't know who they are. The second conversation, they probably won't remember you. Second conversation, they won't remember you. They're going to say, Rony, who? I don't remember you. Because, you know why? Because you're not that important at this moment. Because they have other things that are more important in their life. They have families and birthday parties and things like that, right? So they say, I don't remember you. And they say, well, you know, we talked about 30 days ago. I understand that you were thinking about selling your house, but you're not ready yet. You know what? I just called to see if there's anything I can do for you. No, there's nothing you can do for me. Okay, fantastic. I'll call you back later. And you call them back next month. So next month you call them, that conversation number 3, and you're going to call and say, hey, Robert, this is Rony. You remember me? We spoke about 30 days ago, and Robert is going to say, well, you know, I kind of remember we had a conversation, you and I. That's the third conversation. So you say, okay, I'm going to call you back again later. And you call them back, conversation number 4. You say, hi, Robert, this is Rony. And he says, oh, Rony, hi, how you doing? By the 4th conversation, they start knowing you. By the 4th conversation, they start knowing you, right? And then on the 5th conversation, they start trusting you. And on the 6th conversation, they start wanting to do business with you. And that is the perfect client profile. The perfect client profile is somebody that knows what you do for a living. They like you, they trust you, and they want to do business with you. And after they do business with you, they listen to you. That's the perfect client profile. So watch this. On the 3rd conversation, they getting to know you. On the 4th conversation, they start liking you. On the 5th conversation, they start trusting you. On the 6th conversation, they start wanting to do business with you. And that's what this business is all about. So it's all on the follow-up. See, most people fail because they don't follow up enough. You know, people ask me the question, how often do you follow up with people, with clients or leads? And I said, I follow up with them until they tell me to stop. And that's the reality. You know, I follow up with them until they tell me to stop. And that's just that. So you need to be, you need to continue following up with your people. You need to continue using the scripts. Now, we're going to go over some of the scripts that I like the most, right? The Expire script is a fantastic script that I like, number 1. Number 2 is the script for just listed, just sold. So we're going to go over that in a second. Let me just pull it up here. The just listed, just sold. I absolutely love this script. The just listed, just sold. I love this script, and I'll tell you the reason why I love it. There's several reasons why I love the script. Number 1 is because this script is particularly made for properties that are new listings on the market. And what you're doing is you're promoting that new listing. And one of the things that I like about it is that there's new listings on the market every day. So every day you can choose a mile radius of a subject property, and you can pull the numbers. You can use different systems to pull numbers here, right? You can pull the numbers of all of these people within a mile radius, and you can call them. You can call them and say, we just got a new listing. And every day you can do this because there's listings every day in our company. So you can do this every day. So watch this. What's this? You can do this. You call the person, right, just listed, and you say, hi, my name is Rony. I'm sorry to bother you. The reason I'm calling you is because we just listed a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home around the area where you live. You know, whatever that area may be, right? In Norwalk or Downey or Pico Rivera or something like that, or Bellflower or Southgate. So you said, we just listed a property in the area that you live in, Southgate. And the reason I'm calling you is because I wanted to ask you a favor. So you ask people favor. Here's another thing that I recommend. Ask people favors. When you ask people favors, they want to help you. They really do. They want to help you. Most people, when you ask them a favor, they really, really want to help you. So when you say to somebody, I want to ask you a favor, and they say, well, what is it? And you say, do you know anyone who may be interested in buying this property? Do you know anyone who may be interested in buying this property? You see? And then they'll think about it for a second. They'll think about it for a second, and they'll say, you know what, I don't know anybody that may be interested in buying this property. And then you go to the next question, and you say, I understand. Thank you for at least thinking about it. So let me ask you this. How about you? Do you want to buy it? How about you? Do you want to buy it? You see? And then they say, well, no, we can't buy it. And then they'll tell you the reasons why they can't buy it. And usually it's one of two things. They say, well, we can't buy it because we don't qualify for financing, or we don't have enough down payment, or whatever that is. And you can carry on the conversation from there. Or they're going to say, well, we can't buy it because we already own a home. And when somebody says to me, we already own a home, then I say back to them, Great. You already own a home. Great. Would you like to sell it? And you're asking them if they want to sell it. See, in this business, you always asking for the three most important questions. The three questions that you need to ask on those conversations that you have with people. The first question is, do you want to buy a home? The next question is, do you want to sell a home? And the last question is, can you refer me to somebody that wants to buy or sell a home? You see? So this is fantastic opportunity. Just listed the script, a fantastic opportunity to ask those three questions. So we do it backwards here. We ask for a referral first. Do you know somebody that wants to buy a home or wants to sell a home? And then when they say no, you say, well, how about you? Do you want to buy it? And they say no. And then you say, well, and they say, no, we don't want to buy it because we already own this one. Oh, fantastic. You already own that property. Do you want to sell it? And there you go. You just ask the three questions. Now, as you go through the process of asking those questions, some people will say, we don't want to sell the property or something like that. There's another extra script that I have in here, which you can use all the time. In our company, we have what we call the MAP programs. And one of the MAP programs is the Wealth Accumulation Program, which is basically you find opportunities, you find properties that you can flip, right? And then you purchase those properties with our company, and then the sale of the property, you split the profits. If you want to know more information about that, contact Tim Rush at corporate office because he can explain all of that, or Doug Patty, he can explain you all of that, right? Or Bruce Mohan for that case. Anyway, so we have this program. So here's on a script that I use oftentimes when I'm dealing with these kind of people that they say, no, we don't want to sell our home. And obviously I go through the process of why not and by when, And then I'll say to them something like this, well, before I go, just one last thing before I go, all right? What I wanted to tell you is that our company and myself, we buy properties, and we buy them directly from a homeowner, and we pay them cash and we save them money on commissions. Would you like to know how much our company is willing to pay for your property? Now watch, when you ask that question, some people get interested. Even though they told you they're not interested in selling, they say, oh really, you buy properties yourself? Yes. And you buy them directly from the homeowner? Yes. And you pay them cash? Yeah, absolutely. And you save them money on commissions? Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I would like to know how much my property is worth. I would like to know how much you're willing to offer for my property. And there you go. You just got a lead, right? An interesting thing happened on the just listed as well. When you're calling people and you're asking the question, would you like to buy this home? And some people say, well, we couldn't buy this home. And you ask why not? And then they say, well, because we already own 7 or 8 properties. And then you say, well, great. Do you want to sell any of them? And I have gotten clients by asking that question, and some people say, yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm thinking about selling one of them. Can you help me with that? And I say, yeah, absolutely, we can help you with that. And that's a fantastic, this script right here is great. Now, the other script that I like is the past client script or sphere of influence. This script is for past clients, is for a sphere of influence, for people that you know or people that you have in your database, but you don't really remember who they are, right? So I know that sometimes we feel a little bit weird about calling people in our database that we don't know who they are. So this other script is going to be perfect for that. So I'm going to show it to you right now. So this other script is called the Past Client Sphere of Influence script, or life-changing event, right? And the script goes something like this. For people that you know and people that you don't know. For people that you know, hey Robert, this is Rony. I'm sorry to bother you. How you doing? How's the family? Chit chat, chit chat, chit chat. Listen, Robert, the reason I'm calling you right now is because, as you probably heard, the real estate market right now is really tight on inventory. There's not that many sellers on the market right now. And I wanted to ask you a question. I wanted to ask you, do you know somebody at this moment that is thinking about selling their home? Do you know somebody that's thinking about selling their home? And then Robert says, no, man, I don't know anybody. Well, how about you? Do you want to sell your house? And then Robert says, no, we're not interested in selling. Why not? Oh, well, we lived here a long time and we're not planning on selling right now. I understand that. I can understand that completely. So by when are you going to sell your house? By when are you going to be ready to move forward with that decision? And then Robert says, well, if we were able to sell, we're going to sell in about 3 to 4 years. Excellent. So I'll keep in touch with you in about 3 to 4 years and we'll go from there. And obviously I'm not going to do that. I'm going to continue calling him through the time to ask him for referrals and things like that. But at least I created that conversation. So for people that you know, for people you don't know, you can call them and say, hi, I'm Mr. Frank. Let's call him Frank. Hey Frank, this is Rony. And the reason I'm calling you, I'm sorry to bother you. The reason I'm calling you is because I'm planning to list or buy properties in your area. And I wanted to ask you a favor. Do you know anybody among your neighbors in the area that may be thinking about selling their home? And then Frank is going to say, no, I don't know anybody. And then you say, well, how about you? Do you want to sell your house? And then Frank is going to say, no, I don't want to sell my house. And then you say, why not? And then they say, well, because we've been living here for a long time. And you say, oh, okay, I understand that. Let me ask you, if you were to sell, and I'm not saying you are, I always diffuse that, like using that script. If you were to sell, and I'm not saying you are, may I ask you, by when do you think you're going to be ready to make that decision? And then he's going to say, well, in about a year. Is it okay if I call you back in a year? Permission marketing, right? And then he says, yeah, that's okay. And then I'll say, great, I'll call you back in a year. And obviously I'm not going to call him back in a year. I'm going to call him back every month or every 2 months or every 3 months until he's ready to make that decision, right? So I oftentimes say, I don't care when people buy or sell homes as long as they buy or sell homes with me. You see, because I'm going to need a commission next month as I'm going to need a commission in a year from now, as I'm going to need a commission in 2 years or 5 years from now. So it really doesn't matter when they sell their home as long as they buy or sell their homes with me. So listen, guys, I can't go through the entire scripts because we have limited time, but I wanted to tell you the scripts and dialogues, the questions, the conversations that you have with people are the single most important thing that you can do in this business to create wealth, to create a customer base, create a successful career in this business. If you're not using the scripts and dialogues, you're going to have a really hard time in this business. So I highly recommend that you learn the scripts and dialogues. There's many scripts and dialogues out there. My scripts and dialogues, most people tell me, are super easy to learn, easy to implement, simple questions that you ask people, carry on conversations, and so on and so forth. So please, take the time to learn the scripts and dialogues. If you need a copy of them, send me an email, give me a call, poke me in Facebook, do whatever you need to do to reach out to me because I'm available for you 100% of the time, and I'll send you copies of my script book so you can use them. With this, I say goodbye. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget we have free training classes that you can attend, so I hope to see you in one of my next trainings. Bye-bye.